Warning: the video that you are about to review contains graphic violence, obscene language, and disturbing images that should only be viewed by informed and consenting adults. 100% of all of the violence, obscene language, and disturbing images contained in this video has been perpetrated by the Pennsylvania State Troopers in their official capacities as police officers.
Hello, my name is Larry Holhall. I am a former Pennsylvania police officer and a graduate of the Pennsylvania State Police Academy for Municipal Officers. I am also the author of a nonfiction book about judicial corruption in Pennsylvania. Since I wrote my book, countless people have approached me from all over the United States requesting help with their corruption issues. This case stands out from all that I have reviewed to date. Not because of the claims made, not because of the outrageous actions of those in power, not because it is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. It stands out for two reasons. The first is the absolute proof of the crimes committed by the Pennsylvania State Police. Secondly, and as importantly, the complicity and cover-up by all involved, including the State Police Oversight Mechanism, which is known as the Bureau of Integrity and Professional Standards. It is my hope that this video will outrage you to the point of taking action. But for the grace of God, this could have been your child or family member that these horrific acts happened to. Please keep in the back of your mind as you watch this presentation that as of the date of this final production of this video, the state troopers you are about to see are still strapping on their guns and pinning on their badges to officially protect and serve. You had better hope you or one of your loved ones never crosses paths with any of these Pennsylvania's finest. Early on the evening of March 8, 2010, 31-year-old Robert Leone of Vestal, New York, finished up a session of stargazing at the Copernic Observatory, which is about a 10-minute ride from his home. He was feeling particularly happy that evening. His life was in order. He had just gotten his driver's license back after being suspended for a non-accident DUI charge. He had gone cold turkey on his drinking for over a year, and the medication his doctor prescribed for his bipolar condition offered him some relief. An early evening drive in the country while listening to his favorite music seemed to be just the right thing to top off his evening. This drive would change his life forever. With his car's T-top open and his heater turned up full blast, his odyssey began. He crossed the border into Pennsylvania, which on a rural road simply consists of a small marker on the side of the road. Driving through the small town of Towanda, Pennsylvania, he was approached from behind by a Pennsylvania State Police car with its lights flashing. There was plenty of room for the trooper to pass him on his left and simply go around, but for some reason the trooper did not. The trooper then sounded his patrol car's siren, but still did not pass. Not knowing what was going on, Bob Leone became startled and confused. His reaction was no different than the confusion of an elderly person not knowing what to do in this situation. His bipolar condition added to his uncertainty. The thought that maybe he should pull over never entered his mind. In his mind, he had done nothing wrong. He wasn't speeding, he didn't go through any red lights or stop signs, and he simply became bewildered by the fact that the trooper would not pass him and go to whatever emergency he was obviously being directed to. Mr. Leone deducted when the trooper finally decided to pass him, he simply would, and that would be the end of it. Mr. Leone lit another cigarette and turned up his music so he could hear it over the siren. Mr. Leone continued driving towards his home at the blazing breakneck speed of 5 to 10 miles an hour under the posted speed limit. He noticed in his mirror that a second, third, fourth, and fifth police car was now apparently responding to the same emergency as the first trooper who still had not passed him. You and I know for a fact that if there was any question in our minds as to what the state troopers were up to, we would have simply pulled over long before now. I have been told that persons with bipolar conditions don't always think the way non-bipolar people do. They often rationalize their actions incorrectly. Mr. Leone knew he hadn't done anything wrong, so he was simply going to drive home and listen to his music. Other than not pulling over, Mr. Leone did not break a single traffic law. He did not speed, he did not attempt to elude, he didn't pass through any red lights or stop signs. This was simply a low-speed chase, which at least one of the troopers involved became bored and distracted, as evidenced by his onboard video. The dash cam video you are about to view has been edited for this presentation, but is available in its entirety. Instead of a trooper pulling a car in front of Mr. Leone and stopping him, a much more radical method was deployed. Stop sticks and ramming was the method of choice.
Watch this car. It is later confirmed by the sworn statements of two of the troopers that this car was parked in such a fashion as to totally block the driver's door of Mr. Leone's car. It was blocked in such a fashion that the state trooper himself had to climb out his own window in order to exit the vehicle. Although I cannot attest to the trooper's mindset at this time, it appears as though the trooper has decided there is no mortal threat, as he clearly holsters his service weapon. By the trooper's own sworn statements, this trooper orders Mr. Leone to exit his vehicle 3 or 4 times. Mr. Leone cannot open his car door because of the trooper's car blocking it. He is then tasered by the trooper through the open sunroof. All sworn statements by all of the troopers involved agree that just prior to Mr. Leone being tasered, he was sitting calmly with both hands on his steering wheel smoking a cigarette. As Mr. Leone is removed through the passenger door, watch how Corporal Stipak positions himself on the roof of the car. Note that he does not exit the roof and then assist his fellow troopers in handcuffing Mr. Leone. Rather, he jumps directly onto Mr. Leone with both feet while Mr. Leone is face down on the ground. This maneuver is known as a monkey stomp and is not taught as a valid maneuver in the police academy. We can't see a lot of what is going on behind Mr. Leone's passenger door, but sworn testimony from the troopers involved all state that Mr. Leone is face down with his hands under him. If you look closely under the car door, it will appear that from time to time you can see Mr. Leone's body bounce as he is being struck, kicked, and tasered. At no time is Mr. Leone seen striking or attempting to strike any of the officers. Mr. Leone still has taser probes in him, and the troopers testify he is being shocked multiple times while he is being beaten and kicked, or in their words, subdued. The troopers claim Mr. Leone is fighting so viciously at this point that later on they charge him with 3 felony counts of aggravated assault on a police officer. I have watched this segment dozens of times, and as hard as I look, I just don't see it. One of the troopers breaks his own hand by admittedly punching Mr. Leone in the head with it. Striking or punching a suspect in the head with a closed fist is not taught in the police academy and is a maneuver that is specifically addressed as not authorized.
What do you mean, what's up? What's up with you, dude? Why do you stop? What? Why do you stop? I'm driving. How do you sit up? Wait, sit up. All right. Sit up. Get back to your nest. All right. What the fuck's your problem? Huh? Nothing. Nothing. What's your name? Rob. Rob what? Where are you from? That's New York. Yeah. I'm having a drink tonight. Hold up. Hello? I have to drink tonight. I know.
As a former police officer, my experience has taught me that when people lie to cover up wrongdoing, they often lie about the unimportant issues with as much conviction as the important ones. In other words, they embellish the small issues to make the big issues look more believable. Here is an excerpt from the official internal investigation of this matter. The signed sworn affidavit accompanying this statement reads as follows. I, Trooper Andrew J. Burian, verify that I was given the opportunity to review the above information and that I was allowed to make any corrections or clarifications. By placing my signature in the space provided below, I verify that the above summation accurately reflects my observations of the events regarding this incident. His statement reads as follows. The suspect was still uncooperative and wouldn't walk to the car. Something so simple, but it is a lie. As you will see, Mr. Leone did cooperate and voluntarily walked to the car. There is so much wrong at so many different levels with what you have just seen. Unfortunately, things are about to get worse for Mr. Leone. Although we cannot see what is about to happen in the back of this state police car, we can clearly hear what is said and done as the audio track of this dash cam recorded it all. Additionally, nowhere in this video is Mr. Leone advised of his constitutional rights. In the next sequence, he is clearly questioned and beaten while handcuffed and hogtied by the state trooper. If Mr. Leone had just committed a horrendous crime before he was stopped and answered the trooper's questions as he was directed to do by the trooper, none of his admissions would have been allowed in court. In other words, when questioned by the trooper, if Mr. Leone stated he had just murdered 5 people, his admission could not be used because basic, mandatory police procedure was not followed. As bad as things have been for Mr. Leone so far, it would have been a gift from God if this were the end of it. Once again, things are about to get much worse for Mr. Leone. Much, much worse.
Huh? What's the problem? I'm driving. Yeah. Not even a little bit of stuff. Driving. You see all the police on? You got a long fucking night with us. You hear me?
Copy. I'm in West Palm right now.
Huh? Apollo 16, you're 2 to 1.